Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update. So just one piece of news, and it is a big one that I know a lot of people have been waiting for, and that is that we now know when and where we are going to get our first look at Netflix live action Avatar The Last Airbender. So after all these years of waiting, where we've had the casting announcements like for every single character pretty much, but we haven't seen a single image from this show outside of that very initial announcement concept art that still floats around because it's the only imagery associated with the show, Aang and Appa. We're finally going to get our first look on June 17th. So as you can see here, the official Netflix account here posting about it. So streaming live from Brazil on June 17th is going to be the 2023 Netflix Tudum. I'm not sure what the naming situation is about, but they're calling it this global fan event streaming on Netflix's YouTube account. So it's basically going to be a Nintendo Direct for Netflix, from what I could tell from like what they did last year and stuff like that. The video features like a bunch of actors and stuff like that. So it seems like they'll just have different segments for each different project, where they'll have some of the cast, actors and stuff like that, creators, introduce whatever news update they have about whatever project they're talking about. So like it says there, exclusive news, debut never before seen footage, trailers and first looks of your favorite shows, movies and games. So I paused it here at 56 seconds because you can see this is where it confirms that Avatar The Last Airbender is included here. There's obviously a lot more, as you go along a second or two later, it fills the screen fills up with a lot of things, but you can see there, Avatar, One Piece are probably two of the ones where like those productions felt like they were going on at pretty much the same time, and their kind of destinies are intertwined a little bit because they're both animated to live action adaptations. So there's an expectation here for, like, we've seen a little bit in terms of like promo posters, shots of the characters in costumes from One Piece, but we've seen nothing for Avatar. So this is where we're going to get our first look. So what am I expecting from this? Okay, so again, they've publicly said very little about this. We have scattered pieces of information, like, again, full cast pretty much. But beyond that, all we seem to know is like, what, 8 episodes for season 1, each of them apparently in or around an hour long. I believe the writers and directors of each episode was revealed like a while back, but again, that doesn't tell you really too much. Still, fundamentally for fans, we've not been shown anything that really gives us a true sense of, like, you know, being able to form an opinion on the project. So the expectation immediately is we need visuals. This can't be a super crazy early teaser where they effectively show nothing. Like, it's just 10 seconds, ATLA logo comes up, and there's just a vague sense that, like, in the background is an actual real world kind of setting shot, a live action shot. We need to see Aang, Katara, Sokka, Zuko at the very least. See those new actors, see them in costume, see them portraying the character. I get it's your first look, so you're not going to go overboard here. So I'm probably not expecting like a, 3-minute trailer, probably not even like a 1.5-minute long trailer, but I would expect probably to see some footage because it is still just an adaptation. So, like, there's no spoilers with the kind of core story content that they're going to be showing here. I get it with any show, even if it is an adaptation. You're not going to jump straight away to the finale, but like, Avatar is so well known, you to me have to like just be aware that, like, when you are showing this to people, show them something that like is like, here is our version of this, so that fans can kind of connect with it and see what you're actually going for. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Is absolutely, I think we have to see the characters, the core main characters in their costumes. So like I said, Aang, Katara, Sokka, Zuko, Iroh, and I think you're probably okay for a first look with just them. assuming that the idea is that this is going to kick off like the media cycle effectively for the show, and they'll be a little bit more open to showing more as we go forward. Other trailers will get to see more of the kind of more one-off characters as we go through the episodes and so on. So I probably would expect, like, maybe it might not be part of whatever video thing they show off here or whatever, but associated with this, like posted on the social medias and stuff like that, I probably would expect that we'll see maybe some character posters, kind of like what they did for One Piece in terms of their first kind of visual showcase of what's going on, but for Avatar. And then probably, like, I don't know, like 30-45 second trailer type thing, maybe. It's so difficult to predict though, because realistically it could vary from, they've been working on it for so long, they could just lead with a big trailer and maybe surprise us all by just really doing a big blowout trailer. But it's a first look, so I don't think they'll do that. So to me, poster style look, showing stuff like that off, or, you know, kind of short to medium length trailer type thing, just to give a sense for what's going on here. Now, in terms of my where I'm at with my opinions on the Netflix show, for a while now I've just been at, like, just show me something. There's only so much I can talk about this show before it actually comes out, and for a project where it doesn't have my, like, extreme excitement as an Avatar fan, because it is just an adaptation, I need this to show me what the show actually is, so I can kind of, like, temper my expectations. Ultimately, I'm expecting visually it to be fine, because to me, the Last Airbender movie visually was fine. Like, they to me, they got it right. Like, costuming wise, I know a lot of people don't like to in any way praise or note any positives from the Last Airbender movie, but the way they did the costuming in general in the Last Airbender movie was fine. I think for, at this point, how kind of relatively old that movie was, I was pretty happy with the CG at the time. And sure, the actual sort of like martial arts of the bending and how they did it in the Last Airbender movie wasn't great, but I think visually it was, like, how they actually did the fire and, like, water and stuff like that was, I think, pretty solid. And of course, this many years on, the expectation would be that they can improve on that to a more modern level. And so I'm pretty confident that visually they'll hit what they need to do. The one slight fear I would have is that they might be overly cautious about doing things too close to the Last Airbender movie in terms of its approach to the kind of visuals, and maybe they've gone too far to stray away from that, and that might not work as well. Because ultimately, I think what we're talking about here is, say, for, like, the Water Tribe characters, are we going full, like, really, really, really bright blues and stuff like that? We're letting that kind of be, or are we going with more of the kind of muted style that the Last Airbender movie did? Like, is Aang going to be wearing, like, yellow and orange? Like, bright yellow and orange, like the animation? Or are you going to do more kind of Jedi robes, kind of, like, toned down a little bit? That feels a little bit more fitting for live action. To me, the ideal kind of visual aesthetic would probably be emphasize the color a little bit more than the Last Airbender movie, but probably not try to, like, color match it directly, or it might look a little bit kind of much. And that's kind of probably across the board with all of the nations, is to not go super crazy on the colors of just, like, you know, bright greens. You don't want to see too many of them with the Earth Kingdom, that sort of thing. So visually, I'm relatively confident. To me, the make or break, which is ultimately what broke the Last Airbender movie, is your script, the dialogue that your actors actually have to say, and ultimately how they do that adaptation of those episodes, that dialogue, those events into live action. Because based on what we know in terms of the actors and stuff like that, it seems like they are attempting to touch on pretty much every episode, the events of nearly every episode of book one at some point across the 8 episodes that we have here. So there is a little bit of an expectation that like they're gonna hit some of these kind of key scenes in all these episodes, and you kind of wonder with some of the more kind of comedic stuff, like, can you do that as word for word from the animation as you would perhaps want? The last Airbender movie, of course, took the approach which was effectively almost go too serious. In certain instances, I think it worked, but overall the movie was probably lacking in that regard. But they can't overly course correct with this and have it be, I think, the exact same amount of humor that they have from the show and the exact same wording and stuff like that. So it's trying to find the right balance of when to use humor, when to not use humor, and acknowledge that you are not an animation when you're doing a live action. And that's actually probably the bigger challenge there, that kind of tonal thing with the humor for One Piece, which I just really struggle to imagine how they do effectively at all. Avatar, I think, at least has the ability to you lean a little bit more serious, still include some humor, and I think you're at a pretty solid point. One Piece, though, I think could be in a bit of trouble because it's so over the top. But we'll see how that goes. So there's that. Then we pretty much just get down into probably like accuracy, effectively what scenes get cut, what extra scenes get added in, and do they make any major changes when it comes to the positioning of key episodes when characters get introduced, to adapt from 20 individual episodes to 8 longer episodes. Because, like I said, we seem to have nearly every key character from book 1 included. I think Jong Jong is probably the only notable minor character who I don't think I've heard anything about yet, and I might be forgetting that actually happened later on in the casting process. But for the most part, we seem to have basically everyone else. Still just 8 episodes, and okay, it's technically it's the same amount of like time in terms of like, it's actually more time, I think, than the amount of the 20 episodes of Avatar added together. But within that one episode, are you literally just going to do 3 episodes in a row? And when the format of book 1 is so weird, and you have like runs of episodes where, like, say episode 4, 5, and 6, because I think 1, 2, and 3 will kind of be bundled together into like the first episode, give or take. Episode 4 is the Warriors of Kyoshi. The immediate next episode is the King of Omashu. The immediate episode after that is Imprisoned. We're jumping in all of those episodes to a completely different location. And they're actually separated by a pretty big distance. So like when we do that and we do the Kyoshi Warrior stuff, which it looks like they're actually going to expand upon because they have like Suki's mother included and stuff like that. Are they just going to cut and we're in Omashu? Or are they going to find some way to incorporate these moments in at different kind of times? That's what I don't really know, and how it could be a little bit awkward, where I understand the want to attempt to include pretty much everything, but you almost wonder, like, are they trying to include too much at this point? And might they be a little bit better just cutting a few more characters? Whereas by the looks of the cast list, it looks like maybe Great Divide, potentially Jong Jong's maybe being held back for maybe some season 2 stuff, or who knows. But it does look like, for the most part, like Great Divide might be the only real full-on skip episode. Like Waterbending Scroll might be one to maybe skip a decent amount of and just include as you go forward. Fortune Teller also, perhaps there's a decent amount to skip, and so on. Like there's episodes where you can like cut down like without like losing too much, but there's still going to be a lot of relatively kind of isolated characters here that you have to deal with, and then there are more important minor characters that will like turn up later on, like Suki, of course. You have Jet, who's going to have to come back later. If they do leave Jong Jong out, that's like a bit of an interesting one as well in terms of what you do there. You know, Teo and the Mechanist. That's kind of where you have your interesting stuff. But again, the thing really is like, how much of that are we actually going to see here? I'd say that's probably the element of what we probably will see on the 17th that we won't get much of a sense of. I think we'll get a good sense of visually what they're going for in terms of the characters. I'd say we will probably, if they actually show us any footage that includes like character dialogue, I think relatively quickly we'll probably be able to figure out like tonally what they're doing in terms of like capturing the characters and accuracy to the show. But in terms of the adaptation, in terms of cut additional content style things, that's going to take longer to figure out, I think. So that's where I'm at. I am expecting to come out of this probably being like relatively like, okay, that looks fine. Like that's honestly my expectation, is that I will look at this and just think it's fine, not have anything particularly negative to say about it, but perhaps not expecting to be blown away by it at all. And that's kind of been the way I've been the whole time, because the idea of a live action adaptation just is not something as an Avatar fan that particularly stands out or appeals to me these days, especially knowing that we have all these animated projects on the horizon just beyond the Netflix show. So yes, the Netflix show is absolutely completely like deprioritized for me in that sense. But it also means for me that it's very pressure off. Like I'm going to feel so little pressure going in to this in terms of wanting and hoping it to be good, and I'm not particularly going to care too much about like what the fandom reaction is to it, because if it turns out people hate this one too, then it's kind of just like, well, probably to be expected, honestly. If people end up really liking it, then cool, there's another kind of popular Avatar thing that, you know, I'll cover when, you know, it releases and stuff like that. But it is at its core a TLA in live action, and my focus as a channel is on like the lore, new content. This is a new project, but it is not necessarily new content in terms of like obviously just it being an adaptation. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes. At the very least, I'm excited just that they're finally getting on track. And given that we're in similar positions, I would say, with the Netflix build-up as well as the Avatar Studios build-up, in terms of like nothing particularly official yet. We're still mostly going off leaks for both of these things. Though interestingly, because we did get the leaked image from the 2025 animated movie, we're actually slightly further ahead on that visual department for the Avatar Studios stuff than we are Netflix. So this will be Netflix finally getting ahead as well. I suppose, are we going to expect a release date from this? I think they probably have to, because like the rumors are that like it was meant to be summer. At this point, I'd be shocked if it was summer. And there's been a little bit of kind of teases that like it might be falling into like 2024, just based on the fact that they seem to really want to make sure the CG looks good on this show. It has been kind of the takeaway, I think. I don't know. It feels like, you know, are they going to wait until like literally just be like, hey, June 17th, and announce that the show is airing in like July or August? I don't know. Maybe end of the year, early 2024. They might just say winter 2023 or something like that, and leave it at that while it's still potentially a little bit up in the air. But absolutely, they have been in a position where they've needed to actually make an announcement on this show for a while now. So I'm very happy that they're finally getting on track, and just, you know, a big Avatar project getting going. Hopefully this gives a little bit of a sign to Avatar Studios to also kind of begin to put some stuff in place, because I think, you know, we're not too far away from San Diego Comic-Con, and I think there will be some expectations that they say something about Avatar Studios there. If not there, then for sure at New York Comic-Con they should say something about what's happening, and not do a Netflix on it. If you want us to get excited for all these future Avatar projects, you have to include us in the process a little bit. So that's the main thing for me. So yeah, nothing to get particularly excited about right now, because we're still over 2 weeks away from this. It's the announcement of an announcement, but in this particular situation, when we've been waiting so long, an announcement of an announcement is ultimately a good thing. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this. What do you think they will show? Will it be minimal stuff, or might it be a little bit of a blowout on Netflix Avatar because it's been so long? What are you expecting your reaction to be, the general reaction to be? Where is your excitement level at for Netflix Avatar? I've said it already, mine is at that same kind of dead, neutral place I've been at the entire way through. Maybe actually getting to see something might change that one way or the other. So there's one little bit of excitement for me. But that's been the video. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching, and bye.